What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of my beginner's guides for post 1 Tamriel stuff. Now, keep in mind these guides are supposed to be for people who are new to the game or just recently purchased it within the past 3 months or so, or just in general if you took a long break and have no idea what's going on. It's just more to help beginners because I know this game has been on sale for a while, and with the holidays coming up, I know more people might be interested in learning how to play this game. So I've been playing this game for about 2 years off and on. So I like to help other people, and when I started playing, there weren't any videos or anything to help me, so I really had to learn all of this by myself. So that's why I'm making these videos, just for the newer people who are trying to improve quickly and actually put in a somewhat decent amount of time. So, in this episode, we're going to be learning how to craft things, and I picked a character. This one isn't my main, that doesn't exactly have everything researched. What we're going to be going over is how to craft items, what everything does, and somewhere on the lines of how to get various things. And I'll show you on the map where certain things are and how they can be, or how you can make crafted items. So, as a very beginner thing, there are 3 different stations: a clothing station, a blacksmithing station, and out here is a woodworking station. Now, it doesn't exactly have to be in this area. Every major city and most areas in general will have them. And yeah, so the way you look for it is when you open your map, you'll see a little tooltip, and then you'll see the blacksmithing station, clothing, and woodworking station. And that's where you're going to be crafting items. So, let's start off with the basic blacksmithing station. As you may imagine, blacksmithing is where you make weapons and heavy armor. So, there are 3 types of armors in this game: light, medium, and heavy. What people usually think is heavy, since heavy armor gives you the most armor, it's usually the best, right? Not exactly. Now, the reasoning, before I go into anything and explain everything, I'll try to keep everything I say simple, and just so a newer person will understand, so don't get offended if you're watching this and you already know what you're doing. So it's more of a beginner guide. So, the reason why heavy armor isn't always the best for your playstyle is there are different passives under your armor tree. Medium armor increases your weapon damage, right? Light armor is more used for magic spells and just generally more spell resistance and overall spell critical and more magic based, while medium is more melee based and gives more damage to stamina based, where heavy armor is more for tanks and people who want high resistances and overall just more health, while medium is stamina based, light is magic based. So based on your playstyle, you're going to have to adapt to whatever you want. So let's say you're a sorcerer, magic, you would use light armor for the most part. If you're a tank, you'd be using heavy, of course. And if you want extremely high DPS, you're a melee character that uses a lot of stamina skills, medium is the best. But for the most part, I'm not going to go into details with all these passives. That was just a general idea. And yeah, but what we're going to be learning how to do today is, or what we're just going to be learning is blacksmithing, how to craft items, and yeah. So, let's start off with the very basics. They teach you things in the tutorial area. You use raw materials, as you see here. When you collect 10 of them, you can refine it. And then you get ingots, which are like bars. And what you use for that is when you go into your creation, you could create the kind of weapon you want. It usually ranges from axe, mace, swords, two-handers, and then daggers. But you could also use it to make heavy armor, light armor, well, not light armor, but just in general heavy for this one. So the blacksmithing station, what you can create are heavy items and just generally melee weapons. So this let's just start off and keep things simple. We'll just call it row 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So row 1 is the kind of item you want to make, right? Okay, good. And then row 2 is the level of the item you want to make. So you can see there are all these different bars, and essentially what it does is it allows you to create items of a higher level, and the higher the level, the more materials you're going to be required, and a different kind. So for example, we want a level 4 dagger, we would need 3 iron ingots, but if we want a level 1 dagger, we would need like 2. And yeah, that's how it works. The more you put into here, the higher your level requirement and the damage output will be. So since this is a beginner's guide, we're just going to keep everything very simple. And then essentially, just in a nutshell, the higher you go, the higher level requirement. You might be confused on what champion points are. Is essentially after you get to level 50, you start gaining champion points. And you start at champion point 10. And as of right now, the day I'm recording this, the champion point cap is 561. However, the max item cap at the moment is 160. So essentially, this is what you're going for in the end game at like champion 160 items. But for the most part, don't worry about that. We'll just save that for another time. We're learning how to craft today. So now that we got that established, let's say we want a level 14 iron dagger, right? So we got these two set up. Now we go into the very optional, well, it's not optional, it's required, but I wish it was optional. Now, this is the style of the weapon you want. Make sure to look at this part right here, the style of the dagger we want, yeah? So it goes into all these different ones, like if you want a Redguard style, Orc, Dunmer, everything else. In my personal opinion, the more expensive ones are usually the better looking ones. And yeah, so essentially, let's say we'll make a Hollow Jack Amber Marble. So this one was part of the Halloween event that passed, and everyone just has like thousands of marbles that you used. To be honest, I wish it was optional to make a style, but obviously everyone has their own personal preference. So for demonstration purposes, we're going to be using 1 amber marble to make a Hollow Jack iron dagger. So after this, we go into row 4. It depends on what you want nowadays. So I could go over this in a really long video. However, if you are a newer person, in general, I would tell this from people who just started the game at level 1 to people who have been playing this for 2 years. If you were to ask me, most of the time, if you're looking for high DPS, you want sharpened traits. Now, sharpened is, for some reason, ZOS decided this is just going to be the best thing to get, and it blows pretty much everything out of the water. So, sharpened is generally the most expensive, and the highest thing you should go for. And then, obviously, everything else is situational. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't mean everything else is bad. Most of this stuff is very situational. Sharpened is more for like melee DPS and people who use bows. Whereas training, people might not use this on weapons, but if you are like a somewhat advanced player and you're just trying to make a new character, you would want to put training gear on just to get yourself from level 1 to 50 as fast as possible. That's the reason why you would use this one, but other than that, you don't really need it. Sharpen for damage. Defending, generally you don't want on anything. Infused is, I would say, this comes in second place after Sharpened. And Precise with Nernhoned would come in third place for DPS. Well, that's pretty much it. Now, there's another one we have for, it's called Powered. Now this one is mostly used for healing staves, or just using a staff in general. Like if you wanted to make a healer character, instead of Sharpened, you would use Powered. So that's pretty much how it works. And then once you're done with all of that, you don't actually have to put a trait, but it's generally a good idea to do it, because traits are very important, especially in endgame. So if it gets you into like a habit of putting a good trait on an item, generally that's a good idea. So that's what you want to do. And yeah, so once you get everything there, you can craft your weapon, and that's how it goes. Then you have your weapon, I'll say crafted by, and then your name. So let's see. I don't think I'm on a character where I don't have too much research for this one, but for demonstration purposes, we'll just make one. All right, we have a level 8 axe. So now, essentially, what happens after this? Deconstructing means you get rid of it and you're recycling it for resources. That's the general idea. So now that we have this one, you're wondering, how do I improve this weapon? Well, there's another thing you can do, which is putting a trait or enchant on here, which we would have to make, and then you just put it on here. So essentially what would happen after you make a weapon and you put an enchant on it, it'll look something like this, where you see an enchantment and then a trait at the bottom. So that's generally what it does. So once you do that, you can improve it. Now, the way you understand this is by using the tempers chart. Let's go into a little bit of details about the blacksmithing, because clothing and woodworking are essentially the same thing. I'm just on a character that is more not completed, so I could show you how I would do it. So the way this works is, the higher the level, it allows you to use better materials to make better weapons. The keen eye allows you to see ores around the world at a higher or further distance. The minor hireling, it becomes every, I think, 12 hours. Now, it gives you a bunch of resources. So like every time you log in the morning, you'll get like a mail notice, and it'll be like, here's some free items. So that's what it does. Essentially, you would save these points for until your end game, and you know what you're doing, but I would not use it early on because it really doesn't give you anything super crazy. Yeah, so metal extraction, it allows you to use less of the tempers, as we saw in the chart before, to make every upgrading go easier. And then this one, it reduces the research time and allows you to research more items at once, which we'll get into in the future. Actually, I got this confused. This one allows you to refine tempers from raw materials, and this one allows you to improve the item with the cheaper cost. So, for demonstration purposes, the axe we just made, yeah? Right now, it takes 5 to upgrade it. That is without any passives in it. So if you had max passives, I would say you only need like 2 of them. I think it's actually 50% with maxed out passives. But these are fairly easy to get around the world. It just, by playing the game in general, you will get all these. So don't really worry about it. And then to upgrade it to legendary is honestly the most expensive thing. You should save all your yellow tier items for when you're actually late game, because they are expensive. So if you're between the levels of 1 to like 150, I would honestly just stay at purple. And then if you're like high end game, you probably shouldn't be watching this video if you're maxed out and everything. But for the most part, purple is fine up until you get to higher tier items, or yeah, because you're going to be upgrading quite often. So let's look at our original item. Before, look at the damage and look at the sharpened damage or numbers. So when we upgrade it, we have a 100% chance. Obviously, the more you use, the higher your chance. I usually just like to stay at 100. Sometimes it's more expensive to do that, but honestly, if it fails, your item breaks and you have to do it again. And once you're at late game, generally some items are harder to find. So it's honestly, I would rather pay a little bit more for the guaranteed chance of success. That's just a small tip from me, but you can do whatever you want. You can YOLO it if you want to and probably save money or lose money. So after we got that, we can improve the thing. It'll give you like your warning if it's destroyed, if it fails. And now we have a new weapon. So that's essentially how you make things. Now, okay, so as you may imagine, let's go into like a quick mode of what to expect. Blacksmithing. If you are looking for heavy armor and or melee weapons, the blacksmith is the way to go. There are other things you could do. It's called research. And essentially what research does is it allows you to like research a trait so you can craft another item of that specific thing. Obviously it tells you the time it'll take. And yeah, you know what happens once you get all the way down to the last one. It takes like 30 days. So if you don't know what you're doing, just start researching things now. You'll thank me later. And then this is how you do it. You just put in a thingy and then good, you're researching. Come back in 6 hours or something. So now let's go into the clothing station. I'm not going to go over everything I just explained because it's essentially the same thing in terms of like creation. However, the clothing station is for light and medium armors. And that's about it. There are no weapons in the clothing station, only light and medium. And blacksmithing is for heavy and melee weapons. And now we're going into the woodworking station. And what the woodworking station is for like shields as a primary, bows, which aren't in the other ones, and mostly for staves. So essentially this has a fire staff, ice staff, lightning staff, and restoration staff, which is for healers. So you get one of those, and no, I actually want to keep that. But anyway, the 4 different styles of staff. So if you're like a Magicka character and you want like a huge staff or a healer staff or a shield something, you would go here. And I pretty much covered how you do that, how to craft items, and there's a few more things I want to go over. So essentially if you have duplicates of items, you can deconstruct it as a recycle to get some of your stuff back. So like we used all these to get everything. Now we got them back, but we lose some of the tempers, obviously.
Is it true they summoned balls
Now,
to defeat
there's one other thing that I wanted to show you, which is how to craft set items. Now, certain craftable set items come from different places, and you can see here, actually, there's actually one close by. So usually, you'll find things on the map that look like a fire, hammer, chisel crafting station. Now, some of these allow you to craft various set items. So when you go to there, just for an example, I'm not actually going to go there. Crafting, when you see creation, there'll be another tab like right here that's for a certain set. So if there's like something specific you wanted, then you have to like find it. Usually Google has all the answers for that. But that's generally where you go. So that's pretty much crafting in a nutshell. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to drop it a quick like. And if you are a new player, let me know how I did with this video. I hope I didn't confuse any of you. I tried to keep this as simple as possible, but honestly, most of it is like trial and error, essentially. So with that said, if you are new to the game or you are a veteran player, I do have my own guild for subscribers and all this stuff. I actually recently started it up again. I made it in 2014 when I got the game, but I never really did anything except hold it as a bank. So I do plan on streaming more often, so if you guys want to play with me, or if you ever need someone to play with doing dungeons and whatnot, you can always talk to other people. And yeah, just send me a message in-game. Here's my @name. You can find it right here as well. Send me a mail, and yeah, I'll try to get you in the next time I'm on, so you can play with other guildies or other subscribers, so you have at least something in common, or yeah, just in general. So with that said, I try to update this regularly just to give you updates, and there are other people you can talk to. So with that said, hope you guys enjoy this. And one more thing before I go, is if you have any other recommendations for beginner's guides, feel free to let me know. I do want to try to make more just to help other people out. And yeah, hopefully you learned something. And yeah, if you're new, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.